Are you someone who missed the amazing pumps from XLM, HBAR, and also XRP? Well, do not worry. Today, guys, I'm going to show you the next steps, what you need to do to follow things up, what you need to do to essentially be ahead of the herd and to obviously make the multiples you need to make before 2025, or at least be best prepared for 2025. The reason I stress this so much and why I've been talking about this consistently on the channel is because I know what this time right now equivalates to down the track. It's that time that if you don't knuckle down and put in the work, I'm not talking about putting the work in the midst of the 2025 bull run. This is more important. This is the time you should be more stressed and dedicating yourself to the things I'm going to tell you about in today's video, to really benefiting from having the knowledge early, and then obviously come 2025, it's going to be an absolute breeze. Okay, so let me explain to you what I'm talking about. Now, of course, some of us did miss the pumps with these projects, and that's fine. Okay, so XLM, quite obviously recently, they had a little bit of a pump here, right? The 114% gain from the news from XRP. Of course, I think most of the cryptocurrency community definitely benefited from that. Over here, HBAR didn't quite benefit recently. Yeah, it went from about 0.045 down up to about 0.053. So yeah, quite a little decent pump, if you will, but definitely not as large as the 150% it jumped up over here. And also XRP herself, right? So we had about a 75% gain recently with the somewhat not as bullish news that we had with the SEC lawsuit. Okay, so ultimately, if you're someone that's feeling a little bit of FOMO right now, I totally get it. You're going to be one of these three people or in these situations. Okay, so either you have a small or limited, I guess you could say, size amount of money you could actually invest in crypto as of right now, and you need to invest it wisely, or you recently cashed out of one or multiple of your positions in different projects because you wanted to take advantage of either the current prices or those projects. Or number three, you just want to DCA into some solid altcoins. You have some money from your job, whatever you're doing, which you definitely should be busting your ass if you can to get some of that more money, because it will definitely pay off in 2025. But ultimately, you're stuck in the same sort of situation, right? There's a similar issue. You have cash, no matter how limited or small that amount of money is, but you don't know what to do with it. Well, we have two different scenarios we're going to play out today, which is what I suggest you guys need to do. Now, of course, if this video was going to cover both of these things in granular detail, like you all know I like to cover, this video will literally be an hour and a half long. As simple as that, right? Because I like to get into the nitty-gritty of it all. So I'm going to leave some very important links down below to other bits of content from myself, but also one video from a guy called House of Crypto. I know a lot of you do watch him. His name's Peter. Very, very intelligent man himself. He covers a lot of the aspects in terms of trading as well, and keeps you up to speed with bi-daily content as well. So we're going to go over something that Peter actually mentioned in one of his recent videos, which is going to come into effect when we talk about option 2, which is we're going to use the money that we've got here to make more money and then reinvest that money that we make back into step number 1, which is actually investing in good quality projects right now. Okay, so these are the two things you can look at. Now, I'm not a trader myself, so I'm not sitting there looking at the charts nitty gritty and trying to find what projects to look at and then, scalping, trading, buying today, selling tomorrow. I don't do that. So the strategy Peter actually went through, and I'm going to take you through very briefly, and what I'm going to link down below is actually what we as investors can look at, thanks to the crypto transparency networks, the public networks that we all know and love. Okay, so number one, what altcoins do I actually want to buy? So should I still buy XLM, HBAR, and XRP? These are the questions you're probably asking yourself, and it is easier said than done, but I definitely have a process to help us identify if we should buy these projects right now and which altcoins should we actually buy if not. Okay, so let me take you through it very, very briefly. Again, I'll go through this in a lot more detail in individual dedicated videos. I'll try to leave them down below. Okay, so you firstly need to actually divide the capital you have into how many altcoins you want to have. Okay, so a general rule of thumb is that you should be able to read a small article on each of the projects you hold per day. So if you hold 20 projects, you should be able to spend 5 to 10 minutes per day reading an update or a blog post from each of those projects. If you don't have the time to do that, you're invested in too many projects. You're going to thank me in 2025. For most of you, that might be simply 6 to 10 projects, an hour and a half. Okay. Now, I usually also tell people to always look at investing $1,000 at a minimum over time into every project. So you shouldn't have any less than $1,000. I understand for some people that's unobtainable. For some people, $1,000 is what they have overall, which is understandable. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's what I like to tell people as a general rule of thumb. Okay, so we're going to work off this hypothetical example example now for someone who only has $1,000. So we can divide this up again into multiples in my opinion, right? So I would say 2 projects is probably ideal, 500 each. Okay, so half, and right down to maximum of 4 projects. So spending $250 into each project. Any more than that, right? If you're, into 8 projects, putting like $125 or even worse, $100 into 10 different projects, you're spreading yourself too thin. It's as simple as that. If you have a large pump in one project, if it 100x's, you're 100xing $100, which is $10,000. It starts to work up exponentially if you have, let's just say, $250 in one, which is obviously going to work out much, much more. It's like $25,000, okay? So for one project to pop off, it would be the equivalent of like 2.5 projects at $100 popping off. You can see what I'm trying to say here. With less for more, right? But of course, this just means that we have to find better projects, okay? We have to really spend our time and research wisely. Nevertheless, depending on how many you've decided to buy, we need to find the highest ROI narratives because, guys, again, this hypothetical example, we're working with $1,000. You might only have $10,000, but either way, you definitely have to figure out how many multiples you want out of the market. If you want 100x, well, you're going to have to find the 100x projects, okay? I'm going to come back to this in just a moment. Nevertheless, the first thing we need to do is look into the narratives, where the money will flow to. There's no point in us finding the projects if no one's going to want to buy the project because it's not appealing for 2025, right? So the best sort of narratives I've scoured in 2025, I think, will be gaming, AI, privacy, and interoperability. And as a wild card, thanks to the Fed now launched recently, I'm going to say payments as well. So if you want to hedge into some really good narratives and look for the projects within each, I would say look at these top 4 at least. It's pretty much akin to you looking for gold in known gold areas. You don't want to be looking over here, for example, okay? So let's work off the 4 project example. We're buying 4 projects, $250 each. Again, so I would go 1 in each, right? 1 gaming, AI, privacy, and interoperability. And then from there, we got to, dig down a bit deeper, right? Find the meme, or essentially find the projects where when all the money flows into, say, AI, from the AI narrative, where's the most money going to flow from there? Okay, so we have to find essentially the best AI altcoin, respectively, with the lowest sort of market cap. Again, we want the high multiples here as well, okay? So we've got to break them up, right? We're going to break them up into their different sections. So we have layer 1 projects, we have layer 2s, and we have dApps, each with different benefits, of course, and the benefits will come from how many different things they have to offer. For example, we know about these narratives, right? These are 4 narratives we're chasing, but the different projects themselves, for example, Sui, right? Sui is a layer 1 blockchain, which fits into another narrative I classify a 9 out of 10, which is really good, of course. Also, Sui happens to also be really, really good for not just gaming as well, but for the metaverse, which is also a 9 out of 10, okay? So you can see how things can begin to compound here. For example, if we look into Immutable X, well, of course, it's a layer 2, again, 9 out of 10 narrative. So when, for example, they have the situations where layer 2 season happens, well, some of the money might flow into Immutable X. So the interesting thing about crypto and investing is you're not going to have this one moment where you just sell everything. You're going to want to fight the narratives, and when different narratives pop up, you can sell or obviously invest beforehand, take some more profit, but you want to play to the narratives, okay? And obviously multiple narratives, multiple sort of little bull situations, so you can obviously take more and more profits. That's what we're looking for here, okay? And that's what layer 1s and layer 2s will have to offer. dApps can do this, of course, right? Like Render, for example, but it's not as sometimes flexible as layer 1 ecosystems, okay? So you can obviously have the benefit of their underlying ecosystem benefiting the layer 1 as well. So I've gone through here and just kind of had a look at the many different types of projects in these different layers. And what I've gone and done is actually extracted what I believe are 4 good projects, right? 4 good projects for each of these different layers and that hit multiple different narratives. So I've chosen Sui, Render, Mina, and Moonbeam. And then what we're going to do from this point is figure out which ones are suited to your ROI goals and risk tolerance. So like I was saying before, there's no point in you buying, Sui if Sui is going to be a 10x when you want 100x or you need to 100x, okay? So in saying that, you also have to be risk adverse in the same right. So there's one story saying, okay, well, I want to buy Moonbeam and Mina because they're going to 20 and 30x. But if Moonbeam is going to be a 50% risk, meaning that there's a 50% chance that Moonbeam goes to 0, or at least it's a riskier project, well, do you want to risk that? Is this $1,000 or this $250 we're dedicating to Moonbeam in this case? Well, that was supposed to read 250. I'm dyslexic apparently. So, you have to assess both sides of the story. What's your ROI goals? How much do you want to make overall, but also how much risk can you afford to take? If you're someone who can't afford to lose a single penny and you go for the high risk projects because you want 100x, your story don't line up, okay? We have to assess both of those as well. So again, how much can you afford to lose? and you can obviously choose the projects within the risk categories. Low risk, medium reward, you're looking for XRP, Cardano, Stellar, so on and so forth. High risk, extremely high reward, that's things like Energy Web Token, Affinity, Covalent, and Saito. You guys get the idea. If you've watched multiple of my videos, you know what I'm talking about, but ultimately, this applies to XLM, HBAR, and XRP. Essentially, right, are you happy with the multiples they can provide? Okay, and I'll tell you right now, with these projects here, you're probably looking at a minimum of about a 10x here for HBAR. Definitely, I think it can go higher. Same thing probably for XRP and XLM probably as well, 10 to 20x. So they're more or less about the same. Of course, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Corin, HBAR is a lower market cap than XRP and XLM. Why is it pretty much on par at minimum with XRP? And that's pretty much because more people are focused in on XRP. And if the lawsuit finalizes, a lot of money will flow into that. I definitely think HBAR can go well and truly above a 10x, but I don't want to give you guys hopium. I want to be somewhat realistic here. These are obviously in the multi-billion-dollar market cap projects, so keep that in mind, okay? So once we've kind of identified this procedure, we've identified our projects based on how much money. Of course, if you're someone who has 10 grand, you can obviously go through $1,000 into 10 projects, or obviously go less. You might want to do 5,000 in each, which is highly risky, by the way. So you must assess sort of the risk benefits and the ROI you're wanting to chase, okay? So from here, right, if you're someone who wants to go with option 2, use it to make more money first. So if you only have $1,000, for example, or $500, or even if you have $100,000, if you just want to make more money first, this is what you got to do. I think the overall goal still should be to invest for 2025. This is the best thing in my opinion, because this is where the true multiples come from, especially at the cheap prices right now. So in my opinion, the overall goal should still be to invest, but if you can turn, for example, the $1,000 into $5,000 before the bull run kicks off, you're definitely winning. So again, this is Peter's strategy. A lot of people do the strategy as well, and is the best alternative to trading, I believe, okay? So I think we can all agree before we start is that we're here right now, and what I've pretty much found from my research is that the bull run will be kicking off roughly, at least really taking off, around this point here, okay? So probably about April next year, and I think that we'll find that we really need to have our positions in before July next year, aka 12 months away, because that will save us from capital gains. So in my opinion, for you to get in at the best prices, you really should be beating April, but worst case scenario, we got 12 months tops to get in before tax, before we get smashed with that tax in about late 2025, okay? That, capital gains 12 months tax period. So you've got 12 months to pretty much turn whatever money you want to turn into whatever money you want to end up turning into in no more than 12 months. And mind you, if you're someone who wants to take this route, you have to make it work, because if you don't, the higher lows will set in and you'll end up buying at prices that will be much higher from today's price, which is okay if you have a lot more money to invest in. For example, you might want to buy HBAR. Instead of buying HBAR today at 5 cents, for example, for $1,000, and you get however many tokens that might be, 20,000 tokens, or you might be able to get 50,000 HBAR in the future for $5,000, even though the price might go up. It's always about how many tokens you can actually buy. So here's the strategy we have to do. Now, again, I'm not going to go into too much depth with this. I'm going to try to find Peter's video down below and leave the link. If not, I will give you another link to another really good YouTuber who also goes over this, because honestly, guys, I don't want this video going for like 25 minutes, okay? So the two websites are Altcoin and XRP, okay? So it's what Peter actually recommends. And again, I'm going to take you through a very loose example of what you should do right now. So first of all, guys, we're not traders. In this case, we're investors. And thanks to blockchain technology, thanks to the fact that we can see who's holding what, because everything's public and open and transparent, we can take advantage, all right? So we have to look for projects with high volatility, and those sort of projects are projects like Pepe, right? So insiders are what we're looking for here, people that know, and whales that obviously are buying these projects before they pump, and then we can therefore obviously take advantage of following their portfolios and then taking advantage of when they buy a project nice and fresh. We can buy that project when they do and then hope for the pump, okay? So again, highly volatile, very, very timely, which is why I'm going to use Altcoin as well, okay? So once we've found Pepe, it's pretty simple. We go down to the bottom left-hand corner here and we'll click to contract address. So it doesn't matter what sort of network it's on. In this case, it's Ethereum, but it can be on anything, okay? You'll pretty much find that they're all similar, and you'll find holders, as you can see right here, and press holders, okay? So what you're going to do in this case is scroll through the top 1,000 holders. Now, you don't want to go through all 1,000 holders. Typically, the first page is saturated with exchanges, and addresses associated with the project itself, you know, team wallets, so on and so forth. So I tend to look for page 2 and beyond. And then we're going to obviously find, you know, actual accounts, actual whales. So we can see the value over to the right-hand side here. So how much of the token they're actually holding. And of course, this applies for any sort of project, any meme coin out there, highly volatile projects, okay? So we can see over here, these are probably all like random people, okay? But we want to obviously make sure that, you know, we're spending our time wisely. So these accounts over here that have been registered with the Ethereum name service, like outsider.eth, this is obviously an actual person. And as you can see, they've held currently $565,000 worth of Pepe. We can click onto their account, and this is their pretty much holding of Pepe and all their transactions in and out of the account. We can click copy address and then come over to Zapper. It's completely free. Don't even have to make an account, and you can just paste in their address basically, and then come to overall. Okay, so we can have a look at their overall net worth here. As you can see, we can come down here and look at their portfolio, and we can just scroll through. You can also filter this by network, which I don't suggest you do. You want to obviously be able to check everything all in all. And so pretty much is great, right? It covers every single bit of this person's portfolio. And you can also see when they're sending transfers. You can also see things like if they're swapping or staking. It's really, really incredible, okay? So guys, I would suggest that you go ahead and look through this. Again, I'll leave a much more comprehensive example for this down below, but I essentially use Zapper just to assess the portfolio. Now, I'm honestly looking for someone that's holding at least a couple $1 million worth of assets and has more than just Pepe. Like this guy, outsider.eth, obviously only has pretty much Pepe, a whole heap of it, right? So we're looking for more projects that they're invested in to prove that they are finding a lot more projects more frequently, right? They're active whales. Now, in this case, what we can pretty much do is go to the project that they're obviously buying and selling, right? So for overview, you might want to check this with their activity, for example. We can come through here and see what they're buying, you know, on the daily, which is very, very important because these things are timely, or come to their portfolio and go through their projects individually. What do I prefer? I prefer going through the activity. It's just a lot more simple. But essentially, you pretty much go to the token that they're looking to buy, and you can either copy this over here or copy their address. And then we're going to use this to go back into CoinMarketCap, and we're going to see what the project comes up as. So if we just paste in it over here. Now, as you can see, obviously, these projects are, of course, they're either meme coins or very new meme coins. They're going to have charts that look very disgusting like this. Again, this isn't something that I would suggest anyone does unless you need to make that money back and to obviously reinvest it, okay? But again, this is a very viable strategy. I know a lot of people do this. And as you can see, you're not looking for pumps. So if the person itself has withdrawn that money, that's why it's very important. I always look for activity. So if they've sold the tokens, of course, it's probably too late. And you can always confirm that with the chart itself, if it's pumped up and pumped down, or there is circumstances where the project is somewhat new or at least trending sideways. And if they've bought it somewhat recently, you can bang, go in and attack. Now, the really beautiful thing about going through and finding these addresses, once you've found the wallet or the address, that's it for life, okay? So that person, you can pretty much go ahead and track them forever. A lot of the big time whales don't like to have their name registered to the Ethereum name service. So I wouldn't suggest you guys actually go through and always look for people that actually have their name registered, okay? You want to look for people that don't have it, just an address, right? And once you've found that person, again, you can go through to the website called Arkham up here. You have to create an account, but it is free. Go up to alerts, and then you can add in and create an alert for that particular person, which is really, really cool. You pretty much just paste in their address. You can put in whether they're receiving or receiving to, or sending to rather, and you can obviously decide what you want to get an alert from, okay? Or both. Now, it's very important you do this, and then you can go down the bottom here, click where you want to actually receive the alert, so your email address, or also it does allow you to send it to your Telegram as well. So you might want to create a Telegram group and do it that way. Whatever it might be, get your friends involved. More people, the better. And once you go ahead and do this process and you're following or tracking a whale, when it's very timely, when they buy into a new project, you can go in there, buy that same project and sell when they sell, or at least when it pumps. There, bang, Bob's your uncle. You've got some extra money. Now, of course, you've got about 12 months max. I would probably say April next year is when you really should have all your money set aside and invested. But again, for tax purposes, July next year is the cutoff, okay? So again, there's definitely a much more comprehensive strategy I can show you guys, which will be either Peter's video or also someone else's video that will take you through this process much more comprehensively. I would have loved to do it, but of course, that would obviously extend the video length quite dramatically. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you've missed these amazing projects, don't worry, there's plenty more opportunities on the horizon. And if we see a pullback, you'll be able to get into them as well for quite cheap. Guys, thanks so much again. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Take good care. Bye.